Okay, we're here. So, I'm by myself today. Owen is busy with other people who went to visit him the day I left. I left at like 7 a.m. and his other pals got there. No, his other pals got there at like 7 p.m. or whatever. So, he is unavailable for the next few weeks. So, I have literally just finished work. And like, I've got my pen here, don't fall, bunch of stuff here from when I was working. Obviously, doing a laptop, got my suit jacket over there. I literally just came off a call. That's why I'm dressed like this. Otherwise, normally I just work in sweats. Right. I don't know. Can you see? Yeah, right. Explanation for a t-shirt underneath. Right. You try wearing cold shirts every day. Okay. I do not want to get dressed in two shirts immediately after I just got out the shower. T-shirts help, they lessen the impact. Okay, so don't judge me. Right. I don't even know if any of you saw that, but I feel rather insecure. So, how I'm going to start off with this. I think this is the first one I've done these of myself in a while. So, I am going to start with. So there is three main stories I'm going to cover. Two football, one NBA. So, first thing I'm going to cover is Mo Salah leaving. So the Salah thing is going to be sort of like a two-pronged thing, and then the next one will be a separate discussion, and then I'll go into basketball stuff. I have no idea why I just gave a little slap to my wall. So Salah is leaving Liverpool. He is off to, we don't know yet, he's on a free. So he will be, I think either Real Madrid, Bayern Munich, if Elise leaves, or Italy makes sense. I'll go into further details on those later because I think that's probably the most interesting part of all this. So, I've done zero prep for this, by the way. Like, I literally just decided now that I can't be bothered to get changed or write a bunch of stuff down. So this is just me riffing, and I'm going based off what I know. Any research I end up doing, my phone is here, so we'll figure out where we go as we move along. So, So we'll figure out where we go with this as we move along. So obviously it was a bit of a surprise. What day was it? Tuesday? Tuesday or Wednesday? I don't know. Whatever day it was that Salah announced he was leaving. So I thought he'd leave. I thought they'd sell him. They've clearly just came to some sort of gentleman's agreement. Salah, I imagine Salah will give up some cash, and that will be Liverpool's transfer fee, if you will. They don't have to pay anyone to take him off their hands, and Salah doesn't have to go to a club that he doesn't necessarily want to go to. He gets to pick, and he gets a big signing bonus. So from that other club. So I think it works out nicely for all parties, even though Liverpool don't get a transfer fee. And first of all, this is what I'm talking about. So the Trent stuff. People are saying that people call Trent a rat and Salah not, right? Both sides want to move on here. Trent could have very easily got Liverpool a large fee. Upwards of 80 million, I think, considering the prices that some players go for nowadays. Non-creative midfielders go for upwards of 80 million, right? Trent gives as much value. Trent gives significantly more value than those guys. So Trent, honestly, on the right day, the right market could be worth 100 million. So the fact that he went for that, what's Salah going to fetch you nowadays? 25 to 30 million. The guy is not in a good position. He's not in a good bargaining position. So, these situations just aren't remotely the same, even if they are letting one guy go with a year left in his contract, right? Trent deliberately lined up his extensions to be a little shorter, so anyone who's going to act like Trent wasn't being shiesty is being disingenuous. Now, Trent was allowed to do what he wanted, but he was still stupid, right? Some of the stuff that I'm seeing comparing Trent to Salah on the internet. So, the other thing to talk about, see, this is the other benefit of wearing a t-shirt underneath. I can just unbutton the shirt. So the next thing I want to talk about was Salah leaving Liverpool. So I think that the decision was sort of, like I said, I think it was sort of inevitable, right? He clearly had a relationship breakdown with Arne Slot. Those two clearly didn't get along anymore for whatever reason. I don't entirely know the reason. I'm not a huge look into the background of it, but the thing is just as simple as Salah isn't as good this year. I think the first 6 months of last season really did a number on his legs. Like from August to like February time. They really did a number on his legs, right? Otherwise, I think there's every chance he would have broken the assist record as well. And he would have got even more goals. How many did he end on last season? Did he hit 30? I don't remember. Mo Salah. Did he hit 30? I don't remember. So, I don't think I ever even knew what number he hit in the league last season. 29, right? Close enough. I think had his legs not gone, he would have matched his best tally in 2017-18 to hit 32, and he also would have broken the assist record, and he would have had like 55 goals and assists. So that in and of itself would have been insane, but obviously his legs gave way, and he just could never recover that level of intensity and athleticism which he had, and obviously even the rest didn't help him much. And I don't think he didn't even have, he had AFCON this year, sorry, but he did have some issues in terms of getting back to full speed. The fit at Liverpool just doesn't work anymore because Wirtz just being there creates a tactical headache, even though I do think the signing will work out. It's just unfortunate that he's someone who needs certain players in the team to go, and because of his price tag, you almost have to. So, say with McAllister, him and McAllister can't play together unless it's a diamond. But then you just signed Ekitike and Isak for 80 million, Isak for 100 and whatever it was. Those two have to play, but Wirtz also cost 100 million, so he also has to play. And then what are you going to do with Salah? So now you've just got very expensive headaches, and you can't really play a 4-2-3-1 because McAllister and Wirtz, they can't really play together, but McAllister was Liverpool's best midfielder last season. So there's not really much you can do there. So, you sort of have to bench someone. And I thought that the right solution was that you just have to play a diamond and deal with comes what may, and you rotate Salah and Ekitike and Isak to get that. Salah, Ekitike, Isak, Wirtz, you rotate all those guys, someone gets a rest, and you just have a very stacked and loaded front line. Ultimately, they didn't do that, and it ended up being really complicated. And now they finally seem to have settled on a shape in terms of this 4-4-2 with the two number 10s. You have Wirtz, and then you have Szoboszlai as the two 10s. That worked very well last week against Galatasaray in the Champions League. And then you have Gravenberch and McAllister will end up being the pivot for the rest of the season, I think, to get them into the Champions League. Or maybe even win it. I don't know. Maybe they could. We've seen worse teams win the Champions League than this Liverpool bunch. So, we'll see what happens. And Salah ended up being that right centre forward alongside Ekitike, and that worked, but longer term that clearly wasn't a solution, so you might as well just get rid of him now in exchange for a fee. But they waived the fee, I guess, to be good to him, I suppose. I don't know. So, yeah, that is the why, I suppose. Relationship breakdown, he's aging, he doesn't fit with certain guys who are looking to be the future, namely Wirtz, Ekitike, and Isak, they're the future. Salah isn't. So, you prioritise them, and Salah has to walk. So it's a shame for them, but Salah served that club very, very well. And they've served Salah very, very well. Before Salah came to England, he was a bit of a burnout. He went to Chelsea, he failed there. And he went to Italy, he was with Roma and Fiorentina. And, he did well enough there. I don't think he ever even broke a goal a game. But he did well enough there to garner a move to Liverpool, which is obviously a good opportunity for him. And it was a perfect marriage, right? And that fee raised some eyebrows at the time, That was, I think it was 35 million, and, Salah, this is the guy who flopped it. And that was, because if we think about it, right, 35 million nowadays for a starting forward is like, bloody hell, that's a steal. But if we think about it, in proportion to the world record fee, so the world record fee at that particular point in time when Salah signed for Liverpool was 90 million with Pogba, because Neymar didn't sign with PSG until August, I believe. So Salah signed in July, I'm fairly certain. So 35 relative to 90, that's about a third. So basically what we're talking about here, if Salah were to be bought today, he'd be a 70 million pound player. And, that would raise some eyebrows instantly. And now I understand it's not one for one, but just ride with the analogy that I'm doing. So what ends up happening here is that Salah signed for eyebrows. You're thinking you're paying this much money for a guy who's already failed in England? Now, for what it's worth, I have no evidence of this, but I was sleeping at my cousin's that day because my bedroom upstairs was getting redone, like fresh paint and all. So I had to sleep on the sofa at his house, even though I was like 14 or whatever. No, I was 15 when Salah. So, yeah, 15 was 2018, and my birthday is in December. So I said to him when we were in the morning, we were playing PlayStation. I was like, "Oh, that's a good signing for you guys. That's a good move." So he'll fit in well with your system because he's fast and he's athletic and he runs. So, good fit. And, you end up having a good player there, right? No one thought for 1 second that he would turn into what he did. His first year, he bags 32. I think he had like 17 or 18 assists or something ridiculous as well. Very, very good. And then a couple of years after, where they won a bunch, he was great. This is just a brief recounting. Then I'll go into what I think of him and some of the discourse around him over the last few days. So then you get into, so he gets 32 and something, and then he scores, I think, 20 and 20 for the next few seasons. He's a bit of a downtrodden in terms of his productivity, but Liverpool were also just a bit more defensively oriented, and they were more inclined to choke teams out, more of an egalitarian attack, as opposed to what they had in the year before or even the years after. 2021. Van Dijk blows his knee in half, and then they just have a complete centre-back crisis. Mane looks washed post-COVID, and so you end up having Salah having to take on a big load to end the season, and he ends the season on 30 goals to get them in. Get them on Champions League. Oh, what the hell is that? You have to excuse me. I'm a bit, like I said, this is just totally off the cuff. Not off the cuff, but you know what I'm saying. So, who knows? Ignore that. So, then Salah gets 30 goals, and then he has what I believe to be his peak season in 21-22. So he just that's the season where he puts it all together. His pace, his power, he's declined a little bit, but he still has more than enough, and his football brain has really melded together. But he still has enough athleticism to be at the point where... So the next 4 years, basically, is the best version of Salah. 3 years, 4 years. The next however many years were the best versions of Salah. Wait. 2, 3... Yeah, the next 4 years were the best versions of Salah that we as consumers got to experience. I think I'm talking too fast. So what we end up getting then is a player who ends up scoring a bunch of goals, and he gets robbed of a couple of all-time moments because he was really good in that Champions League final, and then City just went crazy in the final 15 minutes against Aston Villa. And that ended up costing Liverpool a quadruple, and then Salah is the best attacker on a team that's won a quadruple. Wow. Then the season after that, they go on a bit of a downhill, but the reason that they even end up in fifth is because Salah still scores them 30 goals. Year after that, 23-24, Salah takes crazy load offensively. This is the year where he probably had the highest load up to this point in his time at Liverpool, because Mane is gone, Firmino is gone, so you have no one to really link and connect everything together. The midfield, McAllister didn't really hit form until later in the season, and then Gravenberch and Szoboszlai, they weren't really fully bedded in yet, so there's a bit of a problem in that sense. So Salah takes on an insane amount of load. And then he ends up wiltering post-AFCON, and that ultimately cost Liverpool the title. They also got their momentum really dragged when they got robbed of a penalty against Man City. Because had they won that, I do think they're going to win the league that season, and then I think Klopp might have walked. Then Klopp would have walked out with the title, as opposed to, whatever happened. And then last season, he puts in what will be... I'm not sure if it is actually his peak, honestly, just really, but he's going to be remembered as his peak. That he had 29 goals and 18 assists or something ridiculous like that. And he is accounted for something like 50 points to that Liverpool team. Like, that's insane, regardless of whichever way you want to put it. So when you have a guy who's putting up those numbers, and realistically, especially, like I said, for the first 6 months of that season, like, there wasn't even a conversation as to who was the best player in the world. It was not in the world, in the league. Who was the best player in the world last season? That is a good question. For the first 6 months, I mean, obviously by the end of the year, Yamal had clearly took the crown, but, that's a good question. Did anyone really care at that point? I don't know. So, then you end up getting what we ended up seeing from, probably was Salah, to be honest. Salah from August to February time, before Yamal really ascended. He really probably might have been the best player in the world for that point in the season, because Mbappe stunk for the first 3 months. I thought Virgil was rounding into it at some point. Personally, I thought it was Van Dijk at the time. I remember making a TikTok and I thought it was Van Dijk because he was still wow. But then he fell off after December. Mid-December, he sort of went down a level. So, yeah, bit of a weird one. So, yeah, and then you have that, and then ultimately you have what you would probably call a quiet end to the season, but the league was wrapped up. So, what can you really do at that stage? So, who cares? Who cares sort of thing. Like, they won the league. And they have a big party, because that was the first time they were allowed to celebrate their league, because obviously you had lockdowns and this and that. So COVID, and, that's the COVID title, but even though the league was already wrapped up. So they had a big party, basically a party for 2 titles, and they ended up having a great big celebration. So, yeah, that was Salah. So now so that's just a brief recap, right? I didn't know all the stats or whatever. Salah is, I don't understand, I get it, but at the same time I don't. He is one of the most polarizing Premier League players that we've seen of the elite range, right? So let's say, if I were to just name a bunch of... So, if I were to name guys from each era, so like Cantona, he's not really polarizing. Ryan Giggs isn't really polarizing. David Beckham isn't really polarizing. Then 2000s, Henry, not polarizing. Cristiano Ronaldo, not polarizing. Is Rooney more 2000s or I think Rooney is more viewed for what he did in the 2000s as opposed to 2010s. Rooney's not polarizing. Torres, Gerrard, they're not polarizing. People disagree on where they stand, but they don't disagree on fundamentally if the guy's good or not. If the guy is world class or not. And then you end up getting... Then you get to the 2010s, right? There's no polarization on De Bruyne. There's no real polarization on Hazard. He's viewed a little bit overrated, but everyone still acknowledges, yeah, the guy was clearly world class. And then even Van Dijk, no one's polarized on him outside of some weirdos on Twitter who are like, oh, well, you know, this thug who used to slide tackle people in their knees, he's better. So, shut up. So, but no one really, there's not really obviously all of those players that are people who try and discount the things that they achieve and how good they were. But the general consensus is, yes, these guys are very, very... These were all-timers. They were the best in the world at one point at their respective positions, or they were absolute world-class. Haaland is the guy we have today who's probably the best example of that. Like, Salah is probably the most polarizing guy that we've seen in that sense. Like, he's almost like yeah, he almost certainly is, to be honest. Because he runs like a pigeon. I'm convinced that's it. Salah runs like a pigeon. His head's jerking forward a bit all the time. Like he's like, Like the way he runs, he's almost like waddling a bit. Like he looks like he's waddling. He always looks like he's holding onto his clothes. Like he just looks a bit awkward. He looks a bit uncoordinated. Then you actually watch what he does. He's got a pillow first touch when it comes to dragging the ball out the sky. I saw him. I've always thought he had a great first touch. But there was a little clip that came out yesterday of just different first touches, and I was like, Jesus Christ, this guy had a magnet of a first touch when it comes to bringing the ball out the sky. And people talk about Riyad Mahrez. Mahrez has just looked nicer. Salah could take the ball moving at speed and take it in stride and balance the ball on his foot like a ballerina. It was wonderful. Fantastic final ball. Great off-ball movement. Good finisher. Not all world, but a good finisher. A little bit limited in terms of what he can do. He could go near post, far post. He could thunder it inside of 18 yards. He could curl it to the far post. He could curl it inside of 25 yards. Dink was sort of in his repertoire. Not a huge amount, but it was there. And obviously, he's a great, like I've already said, final passer. He could beat a guy one-on-one. He was very good in tight spaces. His one-on-one dribbling wasn't as much his strength, but his tight space work was fantastic. He could play back to goal. He could connect the front line. Like, Salah is a very complete forward. Like, Salah's... So, let's take the aliens. Not even the aliens. So, like, if we take Mbappe or Neymar or Messi or Cristiano, those types of guys out of the conversation for the last 15 years. Jamal out of the conversation for the last 15 years. Salah is right there with anyone else. Anyone else you want to drum up a conversation with, whether it be Gareth Bale, whether it be Benzema, whether it be Hazard, whether it be Vinicius, whether it be Haaland, whether it be De Bruyne, whether it be any one of these all-world attackers, De Bruyne is an attacker, whether it be any one of these all-world attackers, Salah can sit at the same table as them. And Salah might be at the top of that table, because he was just that good. Like, he was absolutely ridiculous. He's the best Premier League attacker that we've seen in the last... What's the last 15 years? To 2010? Yeah, he's the best Premier League attacker that we've seen, unquestionably, since Cristiano left. And he has a conversation... Oh, no, Luis Suarez exists. Suarez is better than Salah. Like, he's unquestionably the best Premier League attacker that we've seen in the last 12 years. And he's in the conversation with the best Premier League attacker, period. Right? He's just in that... He's in that stratosphere. He's in that room. Because Suarez was better... But at the end of the day, can you argue that Salah's wins were more impressive because he did win stuff? So, there's an argument to be had there. Even though I do think Suarez's Liverpool season was better than what Salah did. So Suarez in 13-14 I do think was better than what Salah did. So there's my view on that. And then the fact of the matter is, did he win? So my biggest gripe with Salah, and the reason why I view, and I probably still do, Van Dijk as the face of this Liverpool crop. Like when I think of this Liverpool crop, let's take from 2018 to 2020, so the 17-18 season to the 2026 season. I think of that 8-year period, I think of Van Dijk first and foremost. Because I think when they were at their best, Van Dijk was the best player. Van Dijk was the best player in the league win and the Champions League win. But So my biggest gripe with Salah was that I didn't think that he was ever the best player on a team that won something. He was the best attacker, but he wasn't the best player. Last season, not only was he the best player, he was the best player by a distance, and there wasn't really a conversation over him. Like, Van Dijk would have the odd game in retrospect where it was just like, yeah, I was overrating that one game because of everything that he was doing. But Salah just steady, plundering, piling up the statistics, piling up points for Liverpool. Like, I think he accounted for over 60% of their points last season. Without his goals and assists, obviously they would have figured it out along the way, but still, what he was doing was absolutely insane. So for people who criticize him, they're really off base, because ultimately what he was doing, like, we haven't seen a guy carry that much of a load for a team and win the league probably since Henry. Because even Cristiano, he didn't have this much load when he was winning the title for United. Because obviously his act was very much as a play finisher, and he was a dribbler to help get the ball up the pitch. He wasn't creating to a huge amount. He was dribbler, progressed the ball up the pitch through that, and not through passing. He had a good final pass, but he wasn't the final creator, and he was a plunderer. He was just bagging goals left and right. It was probably Henry. He was the scorer, creator, and the progressor. So, for what it's worth, I also think Henry's better than Salah, which I don't think is a controversial take, especially considering stuff that we saw last week about Henry and Neymar on Twitter. I have no clue how that even became a debate. Where did that come from? So then the next thing we get to is, so that's the piece on Salah in terms of like he is, like, if you really look at what he can do and what he did, not from an aesthetic standpoint, not the way that his body moved, or he didn't glide across a football pitch. Like I said, he waddled. Like who the hell wants to watch penguins on a football pitch? No one wants to see that. People want to see locomotives. People want to see smooth trains and tractors, as opposed to a bloody pigeon. People like to see smooth gait. No one wants to watch Kaiser Sose from The Usual Suspects walking. No one wants to watch Verbal Kint from The Usual Suspects walking. People like to watch Kaiser Sose walking at the end, where the limp goes from, if you've not watched The Usual Suspects, you should, otherwise you won't understand what I'm talking about. But you should. Kaiser Sose is a guy who had Verbal Kint had cerebral palsy, and he walked with a limp, and he was always clutching onto his arm and stuff like this. And then at the end of the movie, Kaiser Sose, he doesn't have a limp, and he walks with an extremely strong gait and guard, and he's flicking up cigarettes, and he's jumping into cars, and he says no words, and the driver drives off. People like to watch Kaiser Sose. They don't like to watch Verbal Kint. So that's the moral of the story here. So that's why people like to look at a guy like Hazard as opposed to a guy like Salah, even though Salah's significantly better than him. Salah had a better final pass, and Salah was a better goal scorer. Salah wasn't better at getting the ball at the pitch, but he was better at the other things which you judge attackers for. So what else do you want? So that's the moral of the story there. So my next thing is that in terms of Salah absolutely belongs at the top table in terms of Premier League guys. So for me, that table is 4 people. It is Salah, it is Suarez, it is Henry, it is Cristiano Ronaldo. And the reason it is those 4 is because those 4 displayed the highest levels the Premier League ever seen. Not Eric Cantona, not Rooney, not Drogba, not Hazard, not who else is really in? Not Steven Gerrard, not who else am I trying to think of it? Not Patrick Vieira, not. I'm running out of names here. Like, Premier League isn't exactly filled with all timers. Like, not Kevin De Bruyne, not Erling Haaland. That list is 4 people long. It is in order, as in chronological order: Henry, Cristiano, Luis Suarez, Mo Salah. And that might be the order in terms of actual ranking as well, but it is those 4. Whoever else you want to bring to the table, Gareth Bale, De Bruyne, Rooney, Drogba, whoever else you want, they're not in the same level as what Salah did. Now, I want to get to the Rooney piece specifically, because Rooney seems to be the one that people are most excited about. De Bruyne fans actually don't. I think De Bruyne fans are okay with Salah being in the same discussion, right? Because ultimately they saw, City fans and De Bruyne fans saw what Salah did week in, week out, and they were like, Jesus Christ, this guy's running us close every single year. United fans, when it comes to Rooney, first of all, here's the thing about Rooney. Rooney is incredibly overrated in retrospect, because of the fact that he was 250 goals in one of this. Rooney never won anything as the best player. He never even won anything as the best attacker, right? Because that's the next thing people are going to say. Okay, oh my God, how could I forget? He won the League Cup as the best attacker. as the best player in 2010. That's it. He never won anything else as the best attacker or the best player. Mo Salah, he won the Premier League and the Champions League as the best attacker. He also won the FA Cup and the League Cup as the best attacker. That's awkward. There's the four. he won everything you can possibly win as the best attacker, and he won the league as the best player. Rooney never did that. Rooney had 2 seasons as the best player on a team. So 2009-10 and in 2011-12. Do you want to know why 2010-11 isn't Rooney's title? Because he stunk for 70% of the year. He stunk until February. He was awful. He was dreadful. The entire conversation was, what's wrong with Rooney? He's kicking up a transfer request. He's making up a stink. When Rooney scored in the first minute against Aston Villa, my room was getting done. Why does my room get done? My room would get done on a semi-regular basis because I had Winnie the Pooh back then. I was like 6. So we had to get rid of that and put something else in. So, was it 6? No, I was 8. And it was Winnie the Pooh and I wanted rid of Winnie the Pooh for something else. So we had to get that involved. So I was sleeping on a mattress in my parents' room, and I was sleeping on the mattress on the floor in my parents' room, and it was, Rooney scored, and it was, that's the real Wayne Rooney, and it's like, yeah, because he stunk for half the year. He wasn't good until February. Like, this guy stunk for ages, because that overhead kick was in February, the Champions League knockout round against Marseille wasn't until February. United weren't using Rooney United wouldn't have won the league without Rooney, but he wasn't the best player on that team. Nani and Vidic were the 2 most important players on the team. They were the best players on the team, and then Berbatov was the top scorer. So in the 2 seasons the 2 seasons either side of that, 2009-10 and 2011-12, where Rooney was the best player, all United won was a League Cup. Because at the end of season 2009-10, Rooney messed up his ankle, which is part of the reason why he stunk so badly at the World Cup. And so he missed his second leg against Bayern Munich, which is part of the reason why United lost, because they went up early, and then the morale of the team dropped, and then he conceded a couple of goals, and then bang. He also wasn't available down the stretch for key running games in a title that United lost by 1 point. Now, okay, would they have won if Antonio Valencia scored a 1-on-1 against Blackburn? Yes. But Antonio Valencia is not a goal scorer, and if Rooney was there, maybe Rooney's in that position instead, and Rooney scores. So, United lost the title that year by 1 point, and if Rooney's available, there's a good chance they win. In 2011-12, they lose, and people talk about the 6-1 beating at the hands of City, or the 1-0 loss at the Etihad, or the 4-4 game against Everton. Do you know the game that United truly lost the title? It is when they lost 1-0 at the home of Wigan Athletic, because Sean Maloney pulled one into the top bins from 20-something yards out. If Sean Maloney doesn't score that, then United win the title. But you know what else prevents City winning the title on goal difference? If Rooney can muster up a single goal and score the goal to get him over the line, at the home of Wigan Athletic, who were awful, and they would proceed to get relegated the next season, and they were in the Great Escape every single goddamn season. So, yeah, that's my So, Rooney Discord, this is turning into a Rooney diatribe, but because I just think he's very overrated in terms of the grand scheme of things when it comes to evaluating best players. The moral of the story is, Mo Salah is one of the absolute best players that we've seen in England, and he will be viewed as such, I think, in time. I think time will be very kind to him, because of that season last year. I don't think had he had that season last year, it would be, because I think people would just view him as, one of a member of Klopp's team. But I actually think that season will retcon in people's minds who was the best player on those Champions League and league winning teams. Which, to be honest, it's not great for the legacy of the sport to have a team who won the league with 99 points and then they also won the Champions League the year before be a centre-back. So I think it's a good thing for people's minds and retconning. So yeah, I think that will actually do Salah's legacy a world of boost. Even though I don't think he was the best player for those big titles at the start. But hey, he really manages to add it, and I think he's won the most Player of the Year awards. Salah, I think right now he is underrated. People aren't really getting their shots off at the minute. Outside United fans who are trying to say that guys like Eric Cantona and Rooney and those guys were better. Van Nistelrooy, it's like, Jesus Christ, what? It's ridiculous. But hey, point is, Salah is an all-timer, and he's one of the absolute very best that we've ever seen, particularly in England. And he'll be respected, and he'll be revered as such in time. And Liverpool will always love him, which I guess is the only place that really matters for him because he spent 9 years of his life there. So in terms of where he goes next, I mentioned 3 places. I think Italy and Madrid or Bayern. So Italy is the obvious place for aging superstars. The other 2 are Bayern and Madrid. Where Elise If Elise doesn't end up at Madrid, I think Salah will go there. If Elise ends up at Liverpool, I think Salah will end up... No. Italy, Madrid, Bayern, right? Italy is a maybe, just because of the wages. If Salah doesn't go to Madrid, which will only happen if Elise doesn't go to Madrid, then I think Salah will either go to Bayern or Italy. One of those two, I don't know which. Bayern 5 years ago, I wouldn't have even considered as an option. But because they've shown a bit of a propensity to sign aging stars now in the form of Kane, I don't think they would just because of the wage structure, but I think he's an outside shot. Realistically, if I were to order the likelihood of probability, Madrid and Italy are far above Bayern. So I think if Madrid don't sign Elise, then I think Salah will end up there. They could really do with a guy like him, even though I think their main need is a striker. Their main issue is they need to sell one of Vinicius and Mbappe and get an actual centre forward in. Madrid honestly would be better served going after Ekitike. Get Ekitike, send one of Vinny and Mbappe somewhere else, and then you also sign Elise. So Ekitike, Elise, and someone else. With that lineup, probably Mbappe. If you can get if you can get Haaland in, then you probably ship off Mbappe in exchange for Vinny, just because Vinny's more of a natural creator, even though Mbappe and Haaland would fit together. So they would actually really fit well together now because Mbappe is obsessed with his ball defeating nonsense. So I think Salah. Where am I going with this? Oh yeah, so that's one place for Salah because they need a left-footed, right-sided player. So you put him there. I think he'd be very good. I think he'd be a very useful piece there. And it's either that or Italy. So Bayern would just be the case if Elise leaves. So if Elise looks like he's going to go, whether it's Liverpool or Madrid this summer, I think Madrid really should go for him. But if he ends up at Liverpool, I'm not sure if they really have a need for him, to be honest with you. Unless it's just for added depth. But then you can play 120 million for depth. Where does Szoboszlai go? Is he going to go play right back now because he's better defensively than Frimpong? I don't know. So we'll have to see. Where are we going with this? So, yeah, I can see Elise at Liverpool, to be fair. That right 10 position with Verts on the other side, and then that could work. But either way, Salah, I think... Someone just messaged me tyrannical turtle to do with Mbappe. So, what we'll end up seeing is, I think, Salah and Elise, their moves will be interlinked somehow, unless Salah goes to Italy, which I don't think he will. But would it? No. I don't think he will because I think he's more likely to end up at Madrid. Right, I think that pace of the league will suit him at this point. I also think that the way that things are set up, he doesn't have to be the primary creator there. Vinny can, so he can focus on scoring goals a little bit more, and he can just be a final pass guy. But yeah, Madrid are a bit of a mess. They really should just get an actual striker in. Anyway, that's enough of that. Maybe I'll talk about what's next with Liverpool another time. So, in terms of the other football story I wanted to cover, Brazil stink. Like, they really stink. They smell a lot. They smell like the school toilets used to. They're not a good team. The reason I want to talk about this is because of the World Cup selection. So this is more of like a broader World Cup thing, right? Mainly to do with France and Brazil. Because France pleasantly surprised me last night. Dembele and Mbappe, they fit well. Ekitike and Mbappe, they were playing well together. Ekitike, that front four for France looks really good. It looks like he could do something. Will it? I don't know because I don't entirely trust Deschamps. But away from that, Brazil. Even though the guy has got to two World Cup finals, and he's also got to two European Championship finals. So, there is that. No, one European Championship final and another semi-final where he lost to the eventual winner of the tournament. So, that's whatever. I want to talk about Brazil. So, Brazil they're just a mess, aren't they? What are you going to do here? They are a really, really rotten team at the minute. And people are wondering, I'm not going to spend too long on this, so I don't even really want to spend 10 minutes on this. Because obviously there's a bit of conversation about Neymar. And Neymar is not a dependable player anymore. The World Cup, you play 7 games across a month. That's basically a game every 3.5 days or something. You play 2 games a week, basically. 3 games in 1 week and then 2 weeks the rest of the way, right? And Neymar is not in a physical capacity to do that. He's only going to play half the games the rest of the way for Santos to ensure he's healthy for the World Cup. Like, he's a cripple. But they stink without him. And they're not great with him either, don't get me wrong. They never dazzled at any of the world. The only World Cup they really were fun at was the 2014 one. 2014, in Brazil, Neymar was doing stupid stuff. 2018, Brazil, Neymar coming off his broken foot. And in 2022, Neymar crippled himself in the first game. Shock. How did he do it? Oh, he held onto the bloody ball for too long. That infuriated me. Because I was convinced that would have been the Mbappe-Neymar final. Except he decided to cripple himself. And then he butchered it. Maybe I should do more of these after work. I'm in a fairly good mood. So, what am I doing next? So they've not dazzled in any. They've not won anything with Neymar in the team. The only thing they won was the Copa America in 2019 when Neymar tore his ankle ligaments. Goody. So, that was really disappointing. I was looking forward to that because I was off. I was off during that entire tournament because I just finished the exams. That sucks. So you end up getting Neymar, and it's like, okay, objectively, is he in shape to play? No, he's not in shape to play. They shouldn't take him. But the problem, I want them to because I like Neymar. But they stink so badly without him. They look like Vinny is the main guy. You cannot build around a guy like Vinny, and that's not an indictment on Vinny, right? Listen, Vinny is a showstopper when it comes to pace, power, but he's very one-paced. He's a guy who can only play at one speed. His game is he's going to run at you and he's either going to cut inside to take you on the outside, or he's going to play that ball around the back of the defense with the outside of his boot. So he's either going to cross the ball, shoot, or play the ball behind the back of the defense. 1-2s are not what he's going to do. He's not going to come in and set the pace of an attack. He's not going to go in and play back to goal. He's not going to do any of these things. Obviously, off the ball, he'll move as well. He moves off the ball a healthy amount, in credit to him. But he is nowhere. He's not the guy you build. He's the guy you maximize and the guy you can platform. But he needs to be, in that situation, he needs to be the cog that's given the license to do what he does best. But he's still a cog. He can't be the guy you build the entire operation around. He is not the guy. First of all, you just can't do that with wide players in general, unless that wide player is having extreme access to the middle of the pitch. Neymar, Messi, Yamal, basically only those guys from the last 10 years that you can really justify doing that for, in terms of making them not cogs. And Mbappe is the same. You can't make him the sun. He has to be a super maximized cog. Now, I could rattle on for a while on Mbappe as to why he's irritated me over the past couple of years, but that's an entirely separate conversation. But when it comes to Vinny, you cannot have a guy like that heading up your team. It just doesn't work. He's too one-paced, he's too one-track minded, it's not going to work. So ultimately, when you get that type of player, building around him is suicide. Give him the number 10, fine. It's a show of respect for the best player on your team, which Vinicius is. He's better than Rafinha. Rodrigo's the only other guy who could have justified having the number 10 just because of the way he plays, but he's nowhere near as good as Vinicius. Who else are you going to give it to? Bruno Guimaraes? Get the hell out of here. Casemiro is, he's a bit long in the tooth in terms of being isolated, but, if you get in the right structure, he can be fine. But, the reason why Brazil would win so many games is because of the fact that Neymar can hide deficiencies with the way that he can play. But unfortunately, Neymar can't do that anymore because he's a cripple. Neymar's probably not going to be at the World Cup. And Brazil are just in a really, really horrible, poor state when it comes to their football at the minute. Because the stars are drying up. Their football culture has sort of been lost because everyone moves to Europe when they're 17, 18 years old. For cash, do what's best for you, right? There's no point staying in a place where you're getting paid less. What are you doing this for? You're not doing this for kicks, are you? Otherwise, you just play on the beach. You're doing this because you get paid for it. And there's a reason why pay disputes end up being a thing is because you want to get paid as much as you possibly can. So listen, chase the money, get whatever you need to. But just in terms of Brazil's football culture as a whole, it would be healthier for these guys if they stayed. The reason why Neymar still had the ingenuity in the way that he played is because of the fact that he continued to play in Brazil far longer than he really had to. He could have moved to Europe in 2011 when he was 19 years old. And he would have still been one of the best players in the world before too long, because he was already top 10 in the Ballon d'Or. Say if he would have gone to Paris when they first started, or say if he would have gone to Real Madrid and he plays as the number 10 or builds up to being the number 10. But no, the reason why he came as a top 5 player in terms of as a prospect as opposed to instantly a top 20 player who has to fight for minutes, is because ultimately what he did in Brazil was undeniable. He wasn't paid as much, but he was paid in dividends down the road. So, Brazil are in a really rough spot. They're not winning the World Cup. They're cooked. So, we'll have to see. I think England had a bit of a controversy because they dropped Trent. Big. Suicide as well. I don't think they can win without Trent. Now, I understand they made deep runs, but you need that ingenuity. Because England, Kane stinks in tournaments. Saka has clearly gotten worse. Who are you going to have off the left? Anthony Gordon? Foden? Rashford? Who are you going to have? And you have Bellingham in the middle. Bellingham just has to do a big carry job again, but, I don't think that's a way to win. And also, I'm a big believer in history and precedent. No team's ever won the World Cup without a native coach. So, Tuchel's obviously German. The Portuguese coach, Martinez, he's Spanish. Yeah, I'm sure he's Spanish. He just managed Belgium, I'm sure he's Spanish. And then you have, who's the other fellow that I was just talking about? Brazil, Carlo's Italian. It's not going to work. People act like this stuff doesn't matter. It's listen, this stuff for some reason it does matter. Scaloni is not a better coach than who is another guy in the World Cup. I don't actually know, but Scaloni is not a better coach than some other guy. But he's won a World Cup. And Deschamps, he's not a better coach than some of the other guys, but he's won Hansi Flick, right? Hansi Flick and Luis Enrique. Those guys coach circles around those guys. They've won World Cups and they haven't, and I understand they were coaching the national teams, but just roll with it here. It's not something that's going to work. So those teams, I just think they're a bit dead in the water. The World Cup's coming around quick though. I think it's only 2.5 months now. I can't wait. It's my favourite sporting event by a distance. If I were to rank my favourite sports to watch, American football's probably at the top, as you can tell by the amount I was talking about it, especially when I guessed. Basketball and football, playoff basketball tops knockout Champions League football, tops knockout football. But World Cup football is just different. Everything, the intensity, it's what World Cup and European Championships. They're my favourites. So yeah, it's just different. So yeah, I can't wait for that. So we'll have to see. I mean, listen, France, hopefully they can do something. I'm pulling for Mbappe, of course. If France don't win, I'm putting my stall out here, I want the Portuguese to win it. Because it would be hilarious. The crash outs on the internet would be funny. Because Ronaldo fans, and Ronaldo will be shameless. Ronaldo will be 42, dumping in penalties, and scoring tap-ins to get 2 World Cup goals and then lift the trophy above his head, and it'd be hilarious. So yeah, I'd like to see that. It'd be funny. If Neymar goes, then I would pull for Brazil ahead of Portugal. But yeah, we'll have to see. Mbappe, I don't know. He looks like he's rounding into form. Good performance yesterday. I hope he does. I've always compared him to Brazilian Ronaldo when he played like Mbappe. He doesn't anymore. Guy, annoying. So he someone just texted me about Spider-Man. So what was I going to say? I really do need to turn my internet off when I record these. Because even though I have Do Not Disturb when I allow certain apps to get through for reasons, obviously, like messages on WhatsApp and things like that. So, where was I? Yes, Mbappe. So, I've always compared him to R9. He's always been the person that comparison's made the most sense to me. From 18 to 23, he doesn't play like him anymore. 18 to 24 even. Now he doesn't play like him as much. Annoying. He's ball to feet. See, I told you, I would end up going on a tirade at some point. So, R9 won his first World Cup, lost his second in the final, won his third. I hope this trajectory will be gone, even though it's different, because R9 stunk in that final, he lost, and he didn't even play in the first World Cup, but he still got a medal. And then he was the MVP, for lack of a better term, of that third one. So yeah, I hope Mbappe pulls it off. It'd be great. But yeah, listen, it's the only saving grace at this point. This guy has annoyed me for 2 years now. He's still been super fun in spots, but he's really irritated me for 2 years. So that would be like, yes, he still exists. And it would still give me credence if I were to be shameless and argue that he's better than Yamal, which he's not. So, we'll see. So, yeah, I think I might 10 minutes now. So, Next conversation. Basketball. So, Wemby should be MVP. Wemby is the best defensive player in the league by a lot. He's a top 10 or so offensive, but I don't think he's top 5. I think there are other guys who are still better than him offensively. People are bringing off all this, he generates most corner threes. So did Ben Simmons once upon a time. What the hell does that mean? Ben Simmons was creating open threes for joke, right? Ben Simmons should not be mentioned in this channel 2 videos in a row, but he has been. Because I'm a big Ben Simmons fan. So, that stuff I don't buy. Could he score more? Yeah, probably, but at the same time, you also need to do it in more minutes. And also, I can't just base it off of, you could do this. It's like, no, what are you actually doing? But I would be fine with someone calling him the best player in the world. Because he is better than Shea, and he is better than Luka, and he is better than Giannis, and the only guy who I think has a real case for over him is Jokic. Because Jokic controls the pace of everything. Jokic, for me, is the best player in the world. But I would not be against. But if Wemby puts in a stupid playoff performance this time, and he carries the Spurs deep, it's like, you know what, fair enough. Wemby might just be the best. Would he be the fastest player ever to be the best in the league? So Jordan came in the league in 84, and he averaged 37. Was he the best player that year? 87? No. The Lakers were better. The Magic was better that year than Jordan in terms of actual player who would impact winning more. Jordan was top 2 though. LeBron wasn't the best player in 2006. Was he? He had an argument. He had an argument, but I don't think he was. I think Kobe. See, Kobe. Maybe Shaq. Because Shaq was better than Wade throughout most of the year. It was just Wade and... Wait, no, 2000. Where did they win the title? 2006. Yeah, 2005 there. Yeah, so... Kobe was probably the best in 2006, but LeBron had an argument, is the point. LeBron might be number 2, to be honest. Because he was number 1 the next year. So he would probably be the earliest player to be the best player in the league, outside of maybe Wilt. We're talking about 60 years, which is insane. Maybe Kareem. Was he better than Oscar when they won the title? I don't know. Was he the best player in the league? I don't know. I've not looked that far. I've not looked in that much detail. Basically, he'll have been the earliest player to be the best player in the league for a long bloody time. And he already has an argument. And we're in year 3, which is insane. So, yeah, it's pretty nuts. In terms of just tenure in the league, right, I think 22 might be the earliest, still with LeBron. Because Wemby is 22. When's his birthday? January. Yeah, so if he becomes the best player, then, he has every case that he would already be the best. So it would be pretty insane. So what do we have here? Yeah, Wemby should be MVP. So listen, Wemby's the best defender in the league. They're only three games behind the Spurs. No, behind the Thunder. And yes, Shea's gone without Jalen Williams all year. But that team was 15 men deep. They could win without Jalen Williams. You could just remove Jalen Williams and replace him with some replacement level player. And even take Shea out, they'd still make the playoffs. With Wemby makes everyone else so much better defensively because of the fact he can cover so much ground and he's so long. And what you'd end up getting is just a guy who he's just an octopus defensively. I think people are overvaluing what he can do offensively because of how good he is defensively. Because they almost can't compute how good he is defensively. Wemby's a good passer for his size. He's not a good passer, period. He's a very good shooter he's a ridiculous shooter for his size. And he's got that one dribble pull up down, which I think might be the most important shot down the stretch of a game. Because if you can just dump the ball down to you on the low block, not even the low block in terms of the mid block, where Kobe and Melo and Jordan, Tracy McGrady used to operate, and you can take a bounce and you can just shoot over anyone, then, it's ridiculous. And Durant's obviously the same. So, you get that, then I think the guy's basically unstoppable. So that's huge. But at the same time, I don't know how much I'd want Wemby to be doing all that stuff at the same time. So yeah, to a degree, I do think guys overvalue everything he can do offensively. Because I also think part of it is people want to be first, as opposed to actually being right. So yeah, we'll have to see what happens. But yeah, I do think Wemby should be MVP. I think he's better than Shea. Yeah, Denver. We'll have to see. I mean, Jokic is great and he's number one. And I think so. Who's their 4-5? So if the seeding holds right now, it's OKC, the Spurs, the Lakers, the Nuggets, the Timberwolves, the Rockets. You've got the play-in, but I feel pretty comfortable in saying that the Suns and the Clippers will come out of that. I just don't know who will be the 7 and 8 seed. I think the Clippers can beat the Suns in a one-off game. So then you have the Clippers. Although I personally would rather the Clippers 2 play the Thunder, just because I think that'd be a bit harder for the Thunder. And I want to see Wemby go through I want to see Wemby with an easy first round to see what it is in the playoffs. Like, bet him in, and then he gets the Lakers in round 2. Assuming the Lakers can beat the Rockets this year, because they got upset last year against the Timberwolves. So, I mean, point of this, I mentioned Jokic. So I'd like to see I'd like to see the Nuggets against the Timberwolves. I don't know because we've not seen that since 2024. And, the Nuggets struggled against them for a while, so I don't know if they can do it. But if they were to win that, and they were to play OKC again, I would love to see that series again. So, I'd love to see. It'd be great. But yeah. I didn't really know where I was going to go on this. I'll talk about the Lakers briefly. Luka is averaging like 40 points a game for the last 10 games. Like, what the hell is this guy doing? He's so good. He is... You can talk about... I think Luka is the scariest offensive player. Because I think he combines... So, Luka is I think Luka's the scariest. I think Jokic is the best, but I think Luka's the scariest. Because Jokic will grind you down gradually. And he won't make some just stupid, insane shots to the same degree that Luka will. Luka's doing 40 points a game, and he's also generating like 8-9 assists a game. I think he's leading the league in points generated. Luka's actually being underrated because of the fact that people are really focusing on his defense. But they didn't do it for Jokic, and they're not doing it for Jokic. Even though the Lakers' defensive rating is actually better when Luka's on the floor. I saw a number on that the other day. So, they don't do it for Jokic. They haven't done it. They didn't do it for James Harden. Like Michael Wilbon, apparently the most votes he's ever given to a player for MVP was James Harden. Wow! You're talking about a brilliant defender, really James Harden. Like, what the hell are you talking about? So, yeah. I mean, Luka's fantastic. And he's the reason why this Lakers team has any shot. Like, because Reeves and LeBron by themselves wouldn't do it. LeBron's actually doing really well in this role. I'm enjoying seeing him in this role. I've wanted to see LeBron off ball for a while. To disprove the liars wrong, who's saying, LeBron can't play for ball. Yeah, we literally saw him do it for the Heat in the 2 years they won the title, especially the first one. And then I also just wanted to see it just because LeBron off the ball is really fun. Like, him as a cutter, him as a roller, him as a guy who can shoot. Luka does this. Luka inspires cutting from LeBron better than any other player I've seen. So, Luka does this thing where he will plant the ball out in front of you a bit and he forces you to catch up on the moves. And I'm saying, I'm on the move. I can't just stand and shoot. I have to go and I have to do something wrong. So he's really good at that. Like, some teams pass it while they're moving, or some teams catch it, bounce it, and move. Luka does this. Luka passes it to force the guy into moving, which I really like. He does that better than almost any passer that we've seen. So he's really good at that, and I really enjoy it. So yeah, Lakers, what can they do? Can they beat the Spurs? Really talking about him. Probably not. Like, Wemby's so good. And the rest of the Spurs have like 8 or 9 guys who can score 10 or 12. Yeah, we'll have to see. Also, I want to talk about that. So one narrative is that Wemby is helping everyone else get theirs. It's like, okay, to a degree, yes, but at the same time, he's not. Like, the guy isn't out here distributing and actively giving up touches. Like, no, the guy could not have the entire offense run through him. He could not do what Jokic or Luka or even Shea does, or he couldn't do what these guys do. Because he's not as good a passer. His handle isn't to the same level where you can do it all the time. And his basketball IQ just isn't as high either. Like, he's not a guy. He's a guy who can make those reads, but he's not good enough to do the actual all-encompassing basketball thing yet. Which is fine, right? There's an argument to be had that type of player doesn't win as much as the other one. But at the same time, he's not doing it because he doesn't want to. He's doing it because that's the role he's been assigned. And no, he's not doing it because he doesn't want to. He's not doing it because he can't. Like, players like to have the ball in their hand, right? Even if it's the better thing. Like, let's take Giannis. Giannis's best years were 21 and 22, where he was off the ball, and Drew Holiday and Chris Middleton were the one handling the ball. Giannis takes more of the ball, and in those years, they lose more. because he's not good enough to do it. But even though he was better and won more in the other role, he wanted to do this because players like to have the ball in their hand. That's the thing with Wemby. I don't think that Wemby's doing it because he doesn't want to. I think he's not doing this because he literally can't. And people pretending that he can is irritating me. So yeah, that's what I got for you today. Hour. I didn't have enough drink today. My jug was basically empty from just ready through the day. And I really want to get changed out of these now. Now I know I'm in a shirt, which is really good because I see this is the other reason I have these on because I can unbutton this. Who's this now? Someone's asking me a boxing question. I think it's a boxing question. Oh, no, it's about the 3 Spider-Men or the 3 Batmans. You know what? You can answer that in the comments. Who would win between the 3 Spider-Men or the 3 Batmen? Spider-Man, I think. Like, the only Batman who actually had any brutality in him was Ben Affleck's one. He was just out murdering people. Obviously, listen, right? Michael Keaton and Val Kilmer and George Clooney, they don't count before some jackass comes in. So, yeah. That's what I got for you today. I'm done. Yeah, done it. Is this the same gear? Yeah, those are the people who were thinking that. Holland, Garfield, Maguire, Affleck, Bale, and Pattinson. Spider-Man. So, yeah, that's what I got for you today. I think we're done it. Today's a Friday. I don't know if I'll regularly record these on a Friday. It's just because I had a call quite late that I decided to record this and I couldn't be bothered. Because I'll be honest, because I'm cutting weight at the minute. Like, I've lost like half a stone this week. A lot of it's water, fine, but it's still hard. Like, just starving. I just want to get this done. Go off and do some other stuff. Right. I'm done here. I will talk to you next week. And I will also be recording probably some more of those short form ones as well. So yeah, talk to you in a while. Bye-bye.